It's the people's second homes. So it's basically you have a long-term tenant that signs a 1-year lease, pays 1 year of rent in advance, and is not even there all year. That's the best tenant you can have, really.
Sure, it's different from what we usually do, but the model is the same and consistent with what we do and how we operate a business, right? We look for that long-term value add opportunity. This checks the boxes. Hey guys, thank you for taking the time to join us today. So today we are really excited because we want to talk about another acquisition opportunity that aligns with our strategy. It's a high quality cash flowing asset with meaningful upside. And we just went on the contract not so long ago, and we are actually in the due diligence process. But it's yeah, you'll find out a little bit more in just a few minutes here. Yes, today we are discussing an RV campground. Yes, you heard it right. It's a 200 site RV campground located in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. If you know anything about tourist attractions and nice areas on the East Coast, the Outer Banks rank high on that list. So Matthias and I, hey Matthias, you want to say hi to the folks?
Hey, everyone.
So we are just gonna have a conversation, sharing with you guys high level what we're seeing so far. As I mentioned, we just went on the contract, so we are in the due diligence process, and so far everything's looking good. Property overview. It's a total of 200 income producing units. So 195 of them are RV sites, 6 tenant owned cabins. So 3 apartments for short term rentals, right? A single family home and a shop, 100% occupied. So this is what's really nice about this asset, right? This particular asset has maintained full occupancy for 6 years. That's insane. And there's a waiting list at the moment, and that list has 220 something names on it with emails. Again, we saw that in the as we received documents for the due diligence process. It is really exciting. It's an area that people really want to be a part of. Everybody wants to own a piece of the Outer Banks. Again, it's located in Buxton, North Carolina. It's a very highly recognizable vacation destination on the East Coast. Matthias, how are you feeling about this?
I'm excited. Good overview, Vinny. Thanks for the intro. When we first looked at this, when it came across our desk, we were kind of skeptical because it's an RV park, right? We don't really touch those unless they have some kind of like long-term attachment to it. And this one checks all the boxes. This is not a typical RV park. Basically, we're serving here, second home campers to people. I mean, there's motorhomes there. There's, $80,000 campers sitting there. People have been there for decades. As you just said, occupancy is 100% for the last 6 years. The wait list is bigger than the park is in general. So we can basically remove everybody and fill it back up 100% with the wait list, which is not the intent here, but we could, which gives this deal a lot of safety. And that wait list screams that they're not charging high enough rents. That's why we feel like there's a massive opportunity there. So I'm super excited about this because it's in a really nice location. It's in a prime vacation spot. The Outer Banks are beautiful, and the demand is high. So super excited about this.
So you alluded to this a little bit ago. We focus on mobile home parks. That's our bread and butter. That's what we know how to do. Why an RV park?
Yeah, it's not a normal RV park, right? RV parks usually are transient, so you have people coming in and out, and they might stay for 3 days or a week or two. People stayed in this park for decades. So we did a first interview with the community managers back in June, over a month ago, and we talked to them and we asked them all kinds of questions. What we always do before we go on a contract. Like we know, okay, we dance a little bit with the seller on the pricing, and we are about to get a PSA drafted. Let's go there before we sign anything, before we get married here for this process. Let's check it out. Because we were still skeptical. And then we actually went there and we're like, oh, now we see it. And the pictures are beautiful and stuff. And there must be dead bodies somewhere. There must be something wrong. When we were there, I mean, everything was 100% occupied, beautifully maintained. The community managers were phenomenal. They answered all the questions really, really directly with no, sugarcoating. And they told us, like, people live there for, like, decades. Permanent structures to their campers. Some of the campers are older, but they're beautifully maintained. It's the people's second homes. So it's basically, you have a long-term tenant that signs a 1-year lease, pays 1 year of rent in advance, and is not even there all year. That's the best tenant you can have, really. It's a lot less foot traffic, a lot less I can break. a lot less demand on the septic system, obviously, and plumbing and infrastructure in general. And it's amazing. So even if, like a situation where you had to do like evacuations because it's an island out in the Outer Banks and people would have to evacuate, they would just basically get out and get back in right after once the cleanup is done. And we talked about these situations with the community managers on site, and the community manager actually was the one building that park 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And he's been through a lot of storms, and they said the most they ever needed for recovery was 1 week. And they
Well,
never dipped on occupancy. People don't even really evacuate, they said, because they're on the sound of the island, right? So that's what all this combined made it very appealing, because of course the elephant in the room is the hurricane exposure, right? Because it's out there. If you look at the Outer Banks, kind of like the Florida Keys, it's just way out there by itself in the middle of the ocean, water all the way around it. Storms can hit it, and and it did hit it. And if you look at like the loss runs, and it's kind of fun fact, I've been working with our insurance broker on this before we got on the contract. The insurance companies got a loss run report from the last 10 years. They were like, there's no way they had no claims. I was like, they had no claims. I mean, there's no damage to any property like on that RV park. First of all, we don't own much because we just own like that office up there, the storage shed, and like the little single family apartments there. With that being said, like there was no damage and no loss run, so they could almost not believe it. Like, hey, this is very exposed to hurricanes. What's going on here? And I think the location on the higher elevation side of the island, on the back end of the island, helps a lot. And they don't really get flooded whatsoever, from what we understood so far. So yeah, if you look deeper, the more and more I dig into it, and the more I fall in love with the with the asset. Which of course we're still very sober about the transaction. We're not gonna get lost in the way of forcing a transaction to close, obviously. But I fall in love with the numbers and the upside for sure, and I see this being a tremendous moneymaker for our investors, obviously, in the future, and a great asset to hold long term.
I gotta admit, when I saw that we were pursuing an RV park, I was like, wait, what? What are we doing? Right? And then I think for me, what caught my attention were a few things, like long-term tenants, right? They pay up front for the whole year. They may not even be on site for most of the year because it's their vacation spot. Like you said, that's like the best case scenario. I'm not dealing with, a tenant for most of the year. And that wait list, right? That's a super long wait list. There's a lot of interest and desire to be in this park. For me, that's pretty much what stood out. And I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it's a very, very pretty area.
Absolutely.
From the numbers point of view, high level, you did the underwriting for the RV park. Can you tell us a little bit about the numbers and what that looks like?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it looks a little bit different than what we typically do. The reason for that is this is not really affordable housing like mobile home parks are mostly in many of the markets, or if not all of the markets we operating in. This is second home RV, long-term RVs, campground, resort, in a sense, with some amenities. And with the long wait list we have, it's really the market screaming, you're not charging enough. So the big lever here is to get it to market rents. So while we were on site, we realized there is other parks out there that are charging about, 2,000, 2,500 more per year on the annual leases compared to them. And they were just a field. They had no amenities. There were no trees. There was just a plain field, and was just RVs stacked next to each other. And their annual sites as well. And it was kind of like, honestly speaking, kind of an ugly park. It was just a grassy field. That one, Cape Woods, we're talking about right now, is beautiful. I mean, it literally is. It has a pond. There's turtles everywhere. There's ducks everywhere. There's trees. There's little cabins there. It's a really pretty park. I felt love with it when I saw it. I was like, man, this is really pretty. I can see why people want to stay in this park right now. And it's been very long established. You're not just going to have those trees just like, coming out of nowhere. They've been there forever. And they're also providing shade, which, it's a sunny area. And they're also providing protection from, also wind in a sense as well for structures. So this is amazing, and it has seen a storm or two. So the upside really comes from the rent increases, and then just going up to the market rents over the first year or two, still stepping harder than we usually do, because this is not affordable housing where we say, we're not going to do more than $75 extra per month in the first year. We're going to go over double, about double in year one on this one, because we're serving, a market that's, has wealthier customers, obviously, and that's their second homes. So that's where the upside comes from. There's some amenities that people are wishing to see, which are small to implement. We asked the community manager several times, like, would you like to see them be improved here? And they're like, the only thing that people want is like Wi-Fi. I was like, okay, we get a modem, get some Wi-Fi, and you're good to go. Yeah, people are happy. Then they have a pool there. And it's a gated community too. It's gated. as well. There's really not a ton to improve. I asked him about should we pave the roads, and like people don't care. I mean, about the gravel, it's a good condition, the gravel roads and stuff. We could pave them, but people don't really see it as an improvement. So I think the majority of the upside really is on getting into market rents, and then even give people the option to not pay necessarily everything at once, but give them the option of you can pay either everything at once and that's your price, but you can also pay your rent over a quarter, meaning you can pay January, February, and March, but you're gonna pay even more, which will bring income up as well. Because we necessarily don't need like $1 million of income coming in like 1 month in January. You don't need that. Great, you can put that money in a high yield savings account and it pays you like $20,000, $30,000, or over $30,000 a year in interest. That's what we plan to do here too, but it's not necessary, especially overall on a T12 perspective for overlooking over the entire year. You get higher income in general if you have people finance the annual size, if that makes sense, right? Over like 3 months. We talked to the community managers about this, and they said that would definitely lessen the blow on the rent increases, and people would actually welcome this. Like, hey, I pay a little bit more, but I can pay this over a couple months now, not just like on January 1st. That would be great because they have jobs, and stuff like that. So I think that will pay dividends in the long run for sure. But I
Yeah.
think on the business plan side, man, that's just the main thing we have to do on this deal is really just moving up to market rents and then just do some small little upgrades here and there and make it a little bit easier for the residents to pay that large sum. Right now it's about $5,500 a year they have to pay for annual sites. Competition is between 7,500 and 10,000 a year. So the rumor is not a rumor, but the word is out that they're building another RV park on the island that charges 10,000 when they open up, and it's also just a grassy field with no amenities. So we are about 40% off of that with our 5,500 roughly that people have. And there's already 25 residents in there in Cape Woods. They're already paying the 7,500 with no problem, which shows proof of concept. We just have to raise the other ones up to 7,500, and that makes instantly hundreds of thousands of dollars more a year going forward and increase the value at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. I think it sounds awesome. The let's talk about, I guess, the elephant in the room, right? It is right on the coast, is beautiful, but hurricanes do exist, and they tend to hit the East Coast a lot. How are we mitigating for to handle potential hurricane impact on the RV park?
Yeah, very good question. So we just got a term sheet from a bank. I'm not gonna say the name right now because it's early, but they gave us the insurance requirements we need for this, so they would lend on it, obviously. So we know what kind of wind and hail insurance we need. And with hurricane prone areas, the wind and hail insurance is the one that can kill it. They are currently paying not that much for insurance. I already knew there's something going on, and what was going on is they have that park currently seller financed from the previous owner. So that means they don't have harsh insurance requirement, and they're technically underinsured. So I quadrupled the insurance cost that they had in my underwriting for us. And we're hitting right around that mark right now with the insurance that we need to satisfy lending requirements. So we're right there. We have business income coverage in place, which means if for some reason, even though that park's been there for 30 years, there would be a hurricane coming in that wipes the entire park out, it would need us a year to recover, which is extremely unlikely from based on the history so far. We would get $1.2 million just instantly because of the income coverage we're gonna have that the lender requires because of the high risk. So the thing though, I'm actually kind of battling with our insurance broker on this, and he agrees with me on that too, because it technically doesn't make much sense because we already get rents a year in advance. Even if there would be a hurricane, people could, in the hurricane season, which goes from June to November, evacuate. And by the time, we're cleaning up and it takes like a week or two at most, they can come back and they're already paid for that spot. If they're leaving, the spot's already paid for because they're paid in January. Even if we go with our extended payment period of January, February, March, by the time hurricane season arrives, they already pay for the entire year. You're not going to lose any income, if that makes sense. But for any catastrophic event that would bleed into the new year and we had lower occupancy, you would get that income coverage. So we basically covered there. The other good thing is we don't own many structures. We really only own the little apartment units that we have in the single family home there. Even the 6 cabin lots, they're not owned by us. There's somebody else owns those cabin units. They're mini cabins, like tiny home cabins. They're pretty. It's pretty cool looking. All the RVs are owned, tenant owned. Nothing is owned by us besides that a storage shed, the office, and the Airbnb in those apartment units. So it's almost nothing. I think it's about $1 million or less on like structure we have to insure, which keeps the premium low. So in the beginning, I was almost not wanting to look at this just because of that reason, because that's the elephant in the room. But like digging deeper and asking your advisors, like insurance brokers, and then talking to the banks that would lend on this and what their requirements are, and getting all these guys aligned, you can get, more comfortable with like, hey, even if something were to happen, like we are covered, we get that money. That means if we get that income, like nothing would have happened, the investors still get their monies, and we have time to rebuild because the structure is also covered on top of it, on top of the income. So you not only get, if the structures will go down and, like your office is swept away for some reason and the Airbnb is destroyed, you would get that money for that too, on top of the income you're losing. So you completely covered. The investor would never feel an impact. Of course, we're gonna have a lot of work at our hands to get rebuilt, but again, this park's been in operation for 30 years and never been flooded once, although they're on the island. But they're on the back end of the island, the sound part of the island, the highest elevation point of the island. So the community manager was jokingly saying, as soon as they get flooded, he will put a GPS tracker on the office and start fishing. He said, but it will never happen. He jokingly said, he's an older gentleman, and he said it's never flooded over here on his hand. So they only have to pick up like tree limbs and debris, and that's all. So that's where we stand right now.
I mean, I think it sounds like a win-win opportunity. There's a reason why they're building an RV park in the area, right? There's a reason for that. And to find an RV park that the numbers make sense, including insurance and all the coverage, why not, right? So that's why we're still pursuing it. And again, it's early on. We just went on the contract not so long ago. We're doing our due diligence. But the reason we're recording this and sharing with you guys, it's because it's looking good so far. So next steps. So Tim and Matthias went to RV park. They walked it. They did a preliminary walkthrough of the area. There's another one coming up, and to do a double check and to do more due diligence activities on site. And after that, we'll have a really good idea if this is really something that we're going to follow through on and potentially pursue and close, right? And add it to the portfolio. I think that will be the case. But again, we still have to do our due diligence. Any last minute comments, Matthias? I know this is just a quick, high level conversation just to share people what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm excited about this deal, like I mentioned earlier. Just keep your eyes peeled for more updates, obviously, because we're gonna share the good, bad, and the ugly on this. So far, it's passing all the checks, and we try to kill it at all angles, and it's surviving, which means it's a good asset. So keep your eyes peeled. We're gonna send you more updates, and then as we nearing the end of DD, we're gonna have more discussions about like how the investment will look like for the investors and what return profiles we're gonna have, etc. It's about the same as we always have where our North Star is, but we're nailing things down as we figuring out what needs to be invested into the park and how much capital we're going to raise. So more information to come. We keep you excited and we are updated with this exciting journey we have right now for this RV park. So excited to see that we're going to have something a little bit different coming online, but it's still somewhat the same. It still behaves very similarly to like a tenant-owned home MHP, but this one feels very exciting because it's in a really nice prime location and it makes a lot of money, which is great and has a lot of upside.
You said it right. I think it's different from what we usually do, but the model is the same and consistent with what we do and how we operate a business, right? We look for that long-term value add opportunity. This checks the boxes, right? And I think this asset definitely represents exactly the type of assets that we strive to acquire, right? Stabilized cash flowing property in a highly desirable market with meaningful upside and a clear path for long-term value creation, right? That's what we look for, and that's what this is, which is why we're pursuing it. So with that said, hey, it's super early on again, but if you're interested, just stay in the loop. If you have questions, reach out, ask questions, and we'll continue sharing as we move on in the due diligence process. And whatever we learn, we'll communicate, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever that may be. We'll keep you in the loop. So with that said, thank you for spending time with us again, and we'll talk next time. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.